Hey there, how's it going? So, this video is going to walk you through my process on mixing ADVO in a way that sounds clean and professional. Just a word of warning, I don't know how long this video is going to be, but just expect for this video to be like maybe over 30 minutes long because I'm going to try to do some explanations along the way and also walk you through the entire process. The title we're working on today is First Day. It's the short film from, I think it was 2016, that inspired the 8-episode miniseries that later released to ABC iView and aired for like 2 seasons, 4 episodes each. So this short film pretty much kicked it off. And just to give you the premise of what the short film is about, it's about a transgender girl who struggles to fit in at her new school. And for the whole time, she's like trying to hide her like transgender identity. Obviously, this goes more in depth in the miniseries, but for a short film, I thought it was a pretty good example to work with. Plus, I recently re-recorded it this year in my booth, so we'll just work with my audio then and see where things go. So let's open up the session. I've already prepped it more or less, and by that I mean all I did was just take the video and the audio, the raw audio, and I dragged it in. So first things first, let's talk about gain staging a little bit. So gain staging comes in various different parts. You have the gain staging during the recording process and the gain staging during the mixing process. For me, at least, for my work, I tend to not care too much about the gain staging like during like with the plugins and stuff because I know my voice pretty well. I know how things generally sound by the time I like get to the final like level matching. But generally, if you're starting out, a good rule of thumb to follow is what you want to have happen is, like if you're using EQ or compression, you want to have the same level going in and the same level going out. And this is where we're going to talk about recording levels because that's kind of important. For voiceover, at least, you want your recording levels to... so this right here is a peak meter, right? This is for the AD channel. So if I let's solo this track and hit play. The Australian Broadcasting Corporation and Screen Australia present. So this is the raw audio. So we can see we peaked right here at around -8.1. And one thing I like about Logic Pro is if we open the track editor at the bottom, we hit E, and then we hit the I think it's the W to go to the file editor. One of the features I love about this is if I go to, I think it's under functions. Yes. And then search peak. What this will do is it will pull up where the loudest peak is in the file. And then to get to that loudest peak on the timeline, I just click and drag a little bit and then just let go. And then on the timeline up here, it'll take me to where the loudest peak is. So let's play this this sentence here and see where we peak. Standing in front of a full-length mirror, Hannah buttons up a light blue collared shirt. She smooths her dirty blonde hair, wiping off lipstick with her hand. Okay, so we can see we're peaking at -6.1. And that is like very, very close to -6. And you're probably saying, well, why are you giving yourself so much headroom? Like, why don't you go all the way to like, say, -1 or -0? You don't want to do that because that won't leave you much room to do like EQ, compression, stuff like that. So my rule of thumb, and the best rule of thumb to follow in the industry, is you want your levels to be peaking somewhere between here, -12, and around here, -6. Never go over -6. And this is why setting your recording levels are important, because before you start recording at all, the best thing to do would be to test your script while you record. So what do I mean by that? So let's say, I don't know, let's say you have an AD script which has moments where like there's like so much dramatic like chaos going on in a scene, and let's say like I don't know, like for example, let's say like an explosion throws a character back. You could say something like an explosion throws a character back, for example. If you want to like emphasize the like that particular moment, that would be your loudest part, and you want your loudest part to be at -6. So before you hit that record button, adjust your gain on your interface to make sure that when you record that section, make sure it peaks no higher than -6. Now you don't. So, and the other thing too is before we get into the processing, I want to cover one more thing with recording levels. You don't have to constantly peak at -6. Again, your average level should be, okay, so no lower than -18, but no higher than -6. So, even like right around here is fine. And even around -9, -10 is fine. And you don't have to hit -6 every session, right? That's totally okay. There are sessions where I record and I hit like at most maybe -7, which is fine. You're still in the ballpark. So I just want to make sure I wanted to get that out of the way before we jump into anything, because if your recording isn't properly gain staged, then you're going to have a hell of a time with processing. One more thing. Yeah, so -18 should be like your quietest part. And honestly, it's okay to like be a little like below this, like -21, -24. But if you're like any lower than that, like we have a problem. You have to like set your recording levels and record again. I mean, there's no other way around it. So again, like I said, getting your recording levels right from the get-go is your best bet. Okay, let's get into the processing. So you probably heard. Let's play a little bit of this. In the courtyard, a sprawling tree with drooping branches partially hides the school building. Okay, so I don't know if you heard that. And again, this will, if you're new to audio engineering and stuff, you may not hear what I'm about to talk about. So mouth clicks. Mouth clicks, they're your worst enemy. Mouth clicks can come from a variety of factors, such as maybe you're not properly hydrated. Maybe your microphone is sitting like too like close to your mouth. Stuff like that. I mean, even when I'm talking right now, I'm hearing mouth clicks in my headphones, which is fine. Like I could take those out in editing, and mouth declicker is what we're going to be using among other things today. So let's get started with the processing. Okay, so let's add an insert, and this is one of the things I would really encourage anyone to do if they're serious about voiceover work. Get a DAW that allows you to apply non-destructive edits. So that means you could add and remove plugins or bypass them like without writing those changes to the actual file. Because at least for my work, I never, ever like permanently print the processing to my file. It's always on an insert for a track. So we're going to add our first plugin, and it's going to be RX11 Mouth Declick. And we are, of course, in mono for this track. Okay, let's open up Mouth Declick. Depending on your recording, so there are some things I've noticed with RX Mouth Declick. And again, in case you're not aware, Mouth Declick is part of the iZotope RX11 standard, which I believe usually goes on for about $500. One of the things I've noticed with RX11 is that you tend to lose like a lot of your consonants if the sensitivity in particular is set too high. Now I like to set my click widening, and again, this will vary for like different people, but I like to generally set my click widening to around 0.6, and then I like to lower the sensitivity to maybe around maybe I don't know 2.7. So now let's get into EQ. For this particular demonstration, I'm going to use a parametric EQ, one that, well, I mean, not everybody could access, but in the concept of EQing, like everyone can kind of follow along here. So usually, just for full transparency, I always use learn EQ from Sonible. And I may use that in the end just to make my life easier. Because the thing is, with learn EQ, if I insert this, I'm just gonna insert this, and we'll just use it just temporarily, for the time being. And I'm gonna choose speech low as my profile. So if I go to a representative part here of my audio, like inside, like this, for example, and then I hit learn. Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway. In a waiting room, a portrait hangs on one of the red-painted walls. So you can hear, like, there was an immediate tone change. I like going with, and this is the cool thing with Learn EQ, is these sliders over here. This is not how a parametric EQ looks. Well, it kind of does. It just simplifies things for you. So let's say you want more presence. You just bring this slider up a little bit. I want to caution you, if you add too much presence to your track, it's going to sound harsh. Sibilants, same thing. But one of the cool things with Learn EQ is there's an assist mode, which we're in, and then there's an advanced mode. And in advanced mode, it shows you exactly what this curve is doing. So for example, at around this area here, which is around 2K, which is the nasal area, there is a bit of harshness at around this area. So let's take a listen to how what this frequency sounds like. Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down. So yeah, you can hear how harsh that sounds a little bit. So now we have the presence zone right here, and that's around like 5K, 6K. And let's have a listen to what that sounds like. Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down. So yeah, you can hear, and look, let's even do sibilants. This is like, like 8K and up. Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hall. So you can kind of hear like it, like you don't hear much at around this area, but if you boost this area with a shelf, it certainly opens up your voice and makes it sound a bit more full. The body, which is this part down here at around like 200 to 500 hertz, and maybe even a little under that, which is around maybe 145, 200. I would be very careful with overly boosting or cutting this area too much. Even though 300 to 500 is where your mud sits, there are some, and you can see there are some cuts here. Let's have a listen to what that sounds like. This is the body section of the voice, and we have our node here at like 244. So, and it's a pretty wide cut. So let's listen to what that sounds like. Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway. So you hear how muddy that sounds? So if we cut that a little bit, then it will allow the higher frequencies of your voice to come through. Now this is a I don't know if is this a high pass filter? I think. Hang on. I don't know why this node's here. Yeah. But yeah, this is a high pass filter. This one down here, and it is sitting at roughly 90 hertz. So let's have a listen to what that sounds like. It's cutting everything under 90 hertz. Inside, down a hallway. So yeah, you can hear like there's not really much down here, which is why I always tell people like add a high pass filter. It'll it'll save you so much trouble because the reason for that is because realistically the lowest a male voice would probably ever go would be like 80 hertz. But if you are mixing, say, or processing a female voice, you're probably going to look at bringing that high pass up to, say, like maybe 120 or 130. Again, it really depends on the voice's fundamental frequency, and I'll explain what that means in a bit. But yeah, that is what I use Learn EQ for. But I'm going to, just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to bring in F6, F6 RTA to be exact. And this is one of my favorite EQs. This makes EQing voices so much easier. So let's first of all start off with a high pass filter. So let's double click, and I'm going to increase the, I know I'm moving a little fast here. So the Q, which is a dB per octave, high pass filter, I like going with 24 dB per octave because that is like a fairly steep filter. You can see here, I think the default was like 12 dB per octave, which, I mean, it's a very gentle slope, but I like being a bit more surgical and really just cutting off the low end where I don't need it. So here's the best way to dial in a high pass filter. Okay, so let's hit play, and I'll just dial it in and explain what I did. Inside, students in pinstripe dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway. Okay, so we ended up dialing it at around maybe like 118 was a bit much. Let me just solo this. Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb. Yeah, so let's do like maybe I don't know. I like going with 100. Okay, so just in general, when you're dialing in a high pass filter, you want to make sure that the voice is not being affected, but all the stuff that's like underneath the high pass filter, which is all this stuff down here, gets cut off. Let's have a listen to what all the stuff under 100 hertz sounds like. Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway. Okay. Okay, so, sorry, just adjusting some things. Okay, so we have our high pass filter, right? Let's play this passage one more time. And you may have seen a yellow line. That's called the max peak hold line, and that will help me to determine what problem frequencies are, or frequency areas there are in this particular recording. Because the problem with some VO recordings is that some lower frequencies will be way too loud in comparison to the much higher frequencies up here, which is where, the presence and intelligibility of your voice lives. So, let's go ahead and hit the play button, and let's try to scoop out some frequencies. And I like using the one of the cool things, I could take a band and I can right-click and move, and this is in solo mode. So let's take a look at and see if there's any way we can find problem frequencies. Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway. In a waiting room, a portrait hangs on one of the red-painted walls. Okay. So immediately, right off the bat here, we see 145 is like a very offending frequency here. Let's listen to what that sounds like. I know I'm kind of going to exaggerate that frequency, but let's listen to what that sounds like boosted in solo.
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts.
Okay, so you can hear it's like very, very muddy. This was in solo. This, I'm going to play it with it boosted, but everything else is also going to come through as well.
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses.
Now I know what you're thinking. Well, having that boosted sounds cool, right? No, it sounds pretty muddy. So let's go ahead and cut that. But what I like to do actually, and this is where shelves come in handy, is I could do a low shelf here, and I could perform a cut on more of the low end if it's like too much. So let's have a listen let's also have a listen and a look to see where things are now on our frequency spectrum.
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway. In a waiting room, a portrait hangs on one of the red-painted walls.
All right. So I would say this is pretty tamed. Let's listen to, because we don't want to like thin this out too much. Let's find some more, and I know where some more are as well. It's right around kind of this general area, like right here, around like 300 to 500. And you're probably saying, well, what do you mean? Well, let's have a listen to like what this area sounds like in solo.
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway.
See, you hear like how muddy that is? So let's actually play it, but not solo it this time.
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase.
So you can hear how like boxy and muddy that sounds, right? What happens if we perform like a cut here? Well, let's find out.
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway. In a waiting room, a portrait hangs on one of the red paint.
So you notice when I was turning this band on and off, it really cleared up the voice a little bit.
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway. In a waiting room, a portrait hangs on one of the red-painted walls.
So yeah, you can see like things are starting to be a little bit more flat. Now I know what you're thinking, like this area right here seems a bit overabundant as well. Let's listen to what that sounds like.
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file.
So I'm just gonna do like a small cut there, probably not by a lot. I feel like this one we can maybe bring this up just a little bit more.
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway. In a waiting room, a portrait hangs on one of the red-painted walls.
Okay, so there's this area right here. I want to let's listen to what this area sounds like. This is around like 1.6K.
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway.
I want to do a very small cut, like right here. And this is the thing with EQ. You want to be very, very subtle in like some of your moves, because if you cut way too much, I've seen people cut way too much, and it just completely ruins the recording. So don't do that. But for our last two bands here, And I know, like, generally it's best practice to have, like, one EQ for your fixing, one EQ for your sweetening. But there is also no problem with using one EQ for both sweetening and fixing. So for our last two bands here, what I want to do is I want to like boost up a little bit of the 2 to 4K, just to add a little bit more presence into the voice. So let's try to find an area that doesn't sound super harsh, and then let's boost.
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway. In a waiting room, a portrait hangs on one of the red-painted walls. Inside, students in pinstripe.
So with that, all we're doing is, increasing it by 2 dB. Okay, and then for our last one, we're going to add a high shelf. Again, I talked about high shelf earlier. Just want to make sure this is the highest shelf, yep. So yeah, earlier I discussed what a high shelf was and the benefits of that. And generally for this area right here, where you want to open up your voice a bit more to give it that shiny top end, you want to search around maybe like 8 to 10K and like boost it up a little bit. So let's solo this band and sweep until we don't really hear much of much sibilance, and then let's boost.
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway. In a waiting room, a portrait hangs on one of the red paint. Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway.
So that was around 10K. So let's have a before and after comparison. Now I realize this is not gain staged, which is why real quick I'm just going to add 2 Ulean meters, and this will help me to like gain stage things correctly. Oh God, I hate when it does this. Actually, you know what? Let's add WLM to our setup here. Okay, so we have 2 WLM inserts. One of them will show the before, and one of them will show the after. So the one on the right is the after, and the one before is, on the one on the left is the before. And this is the best way to gain stage, honestly. Play a part that will best like represent your recording and gain stage based off of that. So what we're going to be doing is we're either going to be adding or subtracting gain from our EQ plugin. So let's play this this passage like right here.
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway. In a waiting room, a portrait hangs on one of the red-painted walls. Wearing a blazer, a blonde receptionist works at her computer. She looks up, smiles, and stands behind the front desk as a blonde woman and young girl enter.
Okay. So we can see we're peaking at around, negative, let's actually double check here. Yeah, -10 is where we peaked around there. So this is definitely the after. This is quieter. So our before shows -27.4. So that means we want to add roughly, let's do like, I don't know, it doesn't have to be exact. Let's do like maybe 2.7 dB of gain for our EQ. And this will allow us to bypass and engage the EQ. Okay, so let's have a listen. And you can see on the meters here, they're going to be exact.
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway. In a waiting room, a portrait hangs on one of the red-painted walls. Wearing a blazer, a blonde receptionist works at her computer. She looks up, smiles, and stands behind the front desk as a blonde woman and young girl enter.
See, like right here we have, so -27.4 LUFS, -27.7. close enough. You don't have to be exact. Plus or 1 minus dB is really all you need. So yeah, we are peaking a little bit. The peak is a little bit higher because of our changes. And again, with EQ, when you are adding stuff and removing stuff, your peak level is going to change. So just keep that in mind. All right. So let's do some A/Bing where we bypass and we bypass and we add in the EQ. And there is I believe, is there a bypass button in here? I don't remember. Whatever, it's fine. We'll just use the native bypass button here. Okay, so let's, I'm going to start with this bypass, and then I'll engage roughly around this point.
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway. In a waiting room, a portrait hangs on one of the red-painted walls.
So you can see how much cleaner that sounds. At least it sounds better on my headphones. So we have EQ done, right? Now, personally, let's have a listen to what Learn EQ did with my voice so we can just compare and contrast.
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway. In a waiting room, a portrait hangs on one of the red-painted walls.
I don't know, for me, I like what Learn EQ did a bit more, but again, to each their own. And we'll be using Learn EQ for this mix. Okay. Next up, De-esser. There are a number of ways you can approach this. A de-esser is a very useful plugin if you want to, especially after you increase those higher frequencies. You will get a bit more harshness in, like, with the S and SH sounds. And so there are a bunch of different de-essers out there. I'm gonna show you a trick that I kind of learned, and we'll use F6 again. Let's see. Well, you know what? We'll just go with the regular F6. We don't need the real-time analyzer. Actually, no, wait. Hang on a sec. I think we would do better with the RTA. F6. Yeah, RTA. Okay, so now I'm gonna go through and show you how to find those like sibilant like frequencies. First off, let's enable the peak hold line, and generally your sibilance is probably going to be somewhere around I don't know, like 4 to 6K. So I know I'm like going super aggressive with the high pass, but I just want to make a point here. So let's go ahead and hit play, and let's watch the frequency analyzer in around this area to see where the sibilance is. When I say like an S word, that's generally where you want to dial in your de-esser. If your de-esser asks for a frequency. Some do, some don't. Some are intelligent enough to find them automatically. But I just want to show you just as a concept on how I would find sibilant frequencies if I had to use a de-esser with a frequency like input.
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway. In a waiting room, a portrait hangs on one of the red-painted walls.
So
Inside.
Roughly at around, I want to say like 9K, roughly around like 9K, 6K. Around this area is kind of where my sibilance is, like, specifically. So what I like to do is I like to use the sibilance plugin. This is a plugin by Waves, and this allows me to, and again, if we take a look here, all we have is a threshold, because this is a a smart de-esser with an optional look-ahead, which I currently don't use. But it's there. Look-ahead is very useful if you want plugins to react like prematurely, like preemptively, I would say. So the way this de-esser works is we lower the threshold until we get some gain reduction. It's pretty easy. And you generally want to get enough gain reduction to the point where your de-esser is doing something. But you don't want to overdrive your de-esser to the point where the voice will sound like it has like a lisp, right? So the best way to do it, I found, is to crank it up too much and then just dial it back. So let's do that right now.
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and
So 12 dB is like way too much. So maybe let's
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down. Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway. In a waiting room, a portrait hangs on one of the red painted walls.
Okay, so I feel like we've dialed our de-esser in pretty good. One other thing that this de-esser has is the ability to monitor your sibilance. So if we click monitor and we hit play, so you could hear it just outputs the S's, which is pretty cool. It lets you know this is what's being taken out. And you will find this in a lot of plugins where there's like a monitor or an output only this, or sometimes even like a delta. It can go by one of many names. I realize I'm dragging on about like EQ, de-essing. Next up, though, is compression. Don't worry. We'll get to the exciting stuff after, which is just ducking or sidechain compression, which I'll explain later, and then final VO leveling. And I'll kind of walk through my process on that as well. Okay. Next up, we have compression. So compression is something. Let me just say this right now. Compression is something that you will not learn overnight. It will take you a long time to learn it. But luckily, there are plugins that will help you dial in like the best like compressor settings for your particular source. I'll be using Smart Comp 3 for this. And the reason I'm using Smart Comp 3 is, as you could probably gather, so this is our second Sonible plugin that we'll be using. And this is AI powered. So it will be able to analyze the audio here, and then it'll hang on, let me just learn this, and I'll come back and I'll explain like what I like so much about this plugin.
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway. In a waiting room, a portrait hangs on.
Okay, so you can see the learning process is done. And normally, like you see all of your standard like attack, threshold, release, ratio, and stuff like that. But one of the things that Smart Comp 3 did and introduced is this thing called the compression matrix off to the left here. And so what you can do is you can say, I want my compression to be more, like less dynamic, but more punchy. Then as you can see, as I'm moving my dot, it's changing the compressor settings on the right. So gone are the days of trying to guess like compressor settings for your particular source, right? It does it all for you. So let's say if you really want it to be dynamic, if you want it to be absolutely dynamic, you can see like there's like a really low ratio, like 1:1, which does practically nothing. And for the peaks, it reduces them maybe just a tad bit, but it doesn't make your audio overly compressed. And again, this is like something that you will need to use your ears for. So if we want it to be like maybe somewhere in the middle between, snappy and punchy, but more or less dense, then we could just drag our little blob here and it will find some good settings. Generally, for ratios, you want to have a good starter point of like anywhere between 2:1 to 4:1. Again, it depends. Attack time is pretty reasonably set here at 13 milliseconds. 5 to 10 milliseconds is on the slightly more like aggressive side. And then around the 32.6 dB, that is how much, that's the threshold, and that will determine how much gain reduction that you get. With this particular plugin, with the way that it works is you will be getting more gain reduction than what is recommended. Generally, and again, it depends, you want anywhere between like 3 to 5 dB of gain reduction on average, but you could also very well go higher if you need that more like compressed sound as well. So let's take a listen. Actually, one other thing. I want to turn on the look ahead, and I'm going to set it to like 20 milliseconds. What that will do is it will allow the compressor. Let me see here. Minimum. Okay, we want linear phase. Okay. Sorry. Okay, let's have a listen to see like what our audio sounds like with the compressor.
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway. In a waiting room, a portrait hangs on one of the red-painted walls.
All right, so you can see here, like it did a fair amount of gain reduction. One of the things I like about Smart Comp 3, and it's already turned on, is the input writing feature. And that's one of the reasons like why we were able to get so consistent with our gain reduction. If I turn off input writing, for example, let's turn that off, and let's try that again.
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway. In a waiting room, a portrait hangs on one of the red-painted walls.
Okay. So you can see our gain reduction was all over the place. But if I turn on the input writing, which basically just like makes the fader go up and down before it hits the compressor, it's supposed to even out your volume before it hits the compressor so it doesn't work as hard.
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway. In a waiting room, a portrait hangs on one of the red-painted walls.
So I know what you're thinking, like it looks like it's going all over the place, but it's like more consistent with like the actual sound. So, yeah, so this is how I would compress my VO. Okay. Second last thing we want to do, this is what I do. I add a limiter after the compressor. And generally what I like to do, so I turn off dither. I want to make this a true peak limiter. And I'm going to go with a safe mode. That means that the limiter will not color your sound. And then I like to link both of these and bring this down to like let's do minus 6.1. Yeah, 6.1 dB. So if we link both our threshold and our ceiling, we get no level change, but we set a limit of how loud our VO could get to minus 6. Let's hit play and see like where we sit on the on our limiter here.
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway. In a waiting room, a portrait hangs on one of the red-painted walls.
So again, we're roughly minus 8.1. And the reason I have a limiter in place here is to, it's a safety net, right? In case like there are loud peaks that do get through, I don't want anything going over -6, like after the compressor. So yeah. And then finally, and I know generally you should be mixing in context for all this, but the way I do it, like it produces consistent quality mixes. Like again, to each their own. But our final task is to determine how loud or how quiet should our track be. And so what we have to do is find our, and this is what I do. So this is the movie file, right, for the short film. So I like to open the Uline meter. This is, and again, this right here is like literally a live view of like my microphone. You can see it's like peaking. This is like considered healthy level. So in the video, you may be hearing me a little bit louder, but in actuality, my raw level right now as I'm speaking is peaking at around -10, -9. So one of the cool things about Uline is the ability to take any audio or video file and drag it in and analyze it. And so it does all the analysis offline, so it analyzes it in seconds. When we get to this stage right here, you can see our integrated loudness of the program is -28, but our dialogue gated loudness is -30.1 LKFS. Now I know what you're thinking. We're going to insert, remember that WLM plugin? Well, let's insert WLM Plus. What that does is it gives us trim control right here. And it also allows us to set another true peak limiter. So what I like to do is I like to go under presets and set it to Netflix. And by default, Netflix expects, -27. This is mainly meant for stereo or surround sound output, but I mean, you could adapt this to be for mono anyway. Okay, I feel I should explain something. Okay, so this reading right here, -30.1, you would think, oh, we could just go in here and insert -30.1 as our target and put -6 as our true peak max, enable the true peak limiter, and we're all set, right? No. There's this thing called, it depends like what type of content you're working with. So there's this thing called stereo summing, where say if you record something in mono and you output to stereo, you can even try this right now. If you record something in mono and you export it as stereo and you put it through a loudness meter like Uline, for example, you'll notice that if you compare the overall loudness between the mono file and the stereo file is going to be 3 dB louder. So, in context of this, -30.1 LKFS dialogue gated is referring to the dialogue gated loudness in stereo. So you're probably thinking, well, what am I supposed to do then? Well, what you want to do is you want to take this number, -30.1, and subtract 3 from it. So I want to say maybe like roughly like 33, -33 LKFS is our target. And so as we're scrolling along here, you can see as soon as we hit 32.9, this now shows as off. And what that really means is -33 is our absolute quietest target, at least that it'll help us to reach. I mean, we can go quieter, theoretically, if we absolutely had to. It just requires a lot of manual trimming of the gain slider up there. But off essentially translates to negative 33 LKFS. Okay, so now what do we got to do? What is the best way to set this? Technically, you're supposed to play the entire program. So in this case, this entire track, you're supposed to play the entirety of it in real time. But I found a workaround. And that is more or less rendering the track offline. So if I have the option in Logic to export only this track as a WAV file, and I can use that to my advantage. I'm not actually going to save anything. I'm just going to render enough of it and then interrupt the process. And then until like this number right here gets to be like consistent and settle. And then after I interrupt it, this trim button down here is going to light up and tell me this is how loud or how quiet you need to make your file. Okay, so let's go ahead and export this track. Okay. I turned normalize off because we don't need that. And then let's go ahead and start the process. So you can see right here, one thing I would not worry about is the fact that the gain reduction meter for the limiter showed negative 2.5. That is normal behavior, even though our dB true peak is negative 7.2. That's fine. Nothing's broken. It's working as intended. So right now our average is roughly around 29.5, 29.6. And so for our loudest one, our loudest momentary peak was negative 26.5 LUFS. So let's give this like maybe, like we are, I mean, we're getting pretty consistent, right? I mean, even if it's like 0.3 LU louder, no one's going to notice. So let's go ahead and let's just give it like up to the 10-minute mark. And we'll interrupt the process doing like command period, as you can see right here. Okay, so we're getting close to, yeah, so it is a little bit quieter, and that's okay. It went down like 0.1 LU. No one is going to ever be able to perceive that. And let's go ahead and just, cancel that. And as you can see right here, our average more or less settled on negative 29.7. So then you can see at the trim button here on the right, it shows minus 3.3 dB. So if we click that, the gain on here will reduce by 3.3 dB, meaning we can hit, even though it says off, we can hit our negative 33 LKFS or LUFS. And this long-term, LUFS. This long-term loudness is important because that will determine how loud your dialogue is. This is after all the EQ and compression that we did. So keep that in mind. Now, you can use this data to set the gain on your limiter, or do what I do and just add another true peak limiter with WLM, and you'll be fine. Okay, so that pretty much, and I know, I'm curious, how long have I been recording for? I've been recording for roughly an hour. Holy crap. Again, we had a lot to cover, people. We had a lot to cover. Okay, let's get into the actual fun stuff, the mixing. Okay, so there are a few things I like to do usually with setting things up. The first thing is mixing on headphones is not the best thing in the world. I mean, you want to be mixing and listening in a treated room that allows all frequencies to be evenly represented. But if you don't have any other option, I mean, you can just use headphones, but even then, it's still not good enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a plug into my master output called Abbey Road Studio 3. And you're probably wondering, well, what does that do? Well, that allows me to, while I'm wearing headphones, it allows me to get a sense of space. So things are going to sound a little weird to you, just a word of warning. This plugin allows you to simulate various studio monitor types, so like near, mid, and far view monitors. And depending on your setup, if you have like one of those like head trackers or a webcam, you can enable head tracking. And as you're like looking around, you'll feel like you're actually in the studio, like listening in this room right here. The mid view, the mid monitors will be able to best represent like what it's like listening on a TV or whatever at home. So that's why I have that set. The headphone EQ profile that I have here is also on purpose as well. I have the Sennheiser HD280 Pros, and headphones, believe it or not, like not all of them are created equal. So if you listen to a mix on one pair of headphones and you make all those mixing decisions based off that, then if you were to listen to your mix on a different set of headphones or a different pair of speakers, your mix will not sound as good, or it won't translate well. So what these corrective profiles do, and this is another plugin by Waves, what these corrective EQ profiles do for headphones is it calibrates them to a reference spec. And it allows you to get a better, more accurate representation on how your audio will translate to various playback devices. And again, for me, I mix better using Abbey Road Studio 3 because, number one, even though the drivers of the headphones are like literally like up to my ears, it allows me to get a sense of space. And that's what will help me to get to like make better mixing decisions. Because at this point, we need to like do like sidechain compression and stuff like that and just make sure things sound like natural, like in the context of the mix. And being able to get a sense of space, like it just is going to sound better. Just take my word for it. But I mean, on your end, if you're watching this video, which is about an hour long, it's going to sound weird because you're going to hear a bit of an echo, and it's just going to sound strange because unless if you're wearing Sennheiser HD280 Pros, you're not going to be able to hear accurately what I'm hearing. But by the time we get to finishing the mix, and you will want to take this plugin off before you bounce your mix. I did that once before where I forgot, and it didn't end well for me. Okay, so our next section we are going to cover is sidechain compression and automation. So sidechain compression is where you probably already know what compression is. If you don't, basically it allows you to turn down the loud parts so that you can then bring up the quieter parts. But with sidechain compression, what we're really using it for is ducking the original program audio or the original video or the original version's audio so that we can create room for our voiceover to sit naturally in the mix. So if you know what auto ducking is, or if you know what ducking is, That's literally what sidechain compression does. And you're probably thinking, what the heck's a sidechain? A sidechain is it's something that a plugin has. Some plugins have this. EQs, compressors, de-essers sometimes have a sidechain. A lot of plugins have a sidechain. And basically what you're telling this plugin to do, in this case, what we're telling our compressor that we're about to add to do is say, hey, I don't want you listening to the original version's track. I want you to listen to and react to the AD narration track. And the track that it's listening to, everything is post-fader, so post-processing. So the compressor that we're about to add will be able to listen to this track, but it's not going to be the raw file. It's going to be the processed version. So enough rambling. Let's add our compressor. So let's add FabFilter Pro C2. This is one of my favorite compressors. Again, if you have a compressor that's stock with your DAW that has sidechain, feel free to use that. To give you an idea of what we'll be doing, we'll be manipulating things like threshold, attack, release, although more so threshold. Let's just add that in, and I'll just briefly run through how we're going to set this up here. Okay, so let's leave our threshold as it is. -18 dB is a good threshold to start out with. Although I will say maybe let's do -21, for example. Ratio, we can leave it 4:1. That's fine. Style is fine. Attack. So I like to leave it open a little bit and follow Netflix's specs. We don't want to go any higher than 15 milliseconds. And for the release, what we want to do is we want to set it so that it this is something that we can play around with later, in the mixing process with automation and stuff like that, which I'll explain in a sec. But generally, I like anywhere between 200 to I want maybe 500 milliseconds for the release. And then for the hold, we want to have it at 500 milliseconds. So actually, I like to have it maybe at 200. And then for auto gain, we want to turn that off. And we're not applying any makeup gain at all. Okay. Next thing we need to do is click sidechain, make sure it sets the internal sidechain, and then go up here to the sidechain, do audio, and then AD. So this is our track that we are listening to. So to sort of explain how this whole thing works, I'm going to go ahead and play just a little bit. Sorry, one thing I forgot was we're not doing internal sidechain. We're doing external sidechain. Sorry, that was my bad. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and play a little bit of this here to kind of demonstrate what this is doing. So let's go ahead and hit play. The Australian Broadcasting Corporation and Screen Australia present, in white letters, the words "First Day" appear on the side of a school. So you can hear, when I'm not talking, nothing is being compressed. However, if I do none for the sidechain and I hit play, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation and Screen Australia present, in white letters, the words "First Day" appear on the side of a school. So you can, in the courtyard, a sprawling tree with drooping branches. So you can see the gain reduction meter is not even moved. Well, it's not reacting to the voice. It's more so reacting to what's going on up here. Let me go to a more a part that will better represent what I'm talking about here. Later, wearing a helmet and gray t-shirt, Hannah rides her bike down a suburban street. So you can see the gain reduction meter is reacting to what's going on up here. So that's why it's important we set our sidechain correctly the first time. I unset it on purpose. So Okay, so now that we have our sidechain set up, what do? Well, we have to then start with automation, which brings me into my next point. What is automation? Automation is something that is very useful in the context of a mix, where there are things in your mix that may change over time. So, for example, you may need to. In this example, we're going to be using automation to either duck the audio more or less. Sometimes automation can be used on even your AD dialogue to do things like, for example, with RX mouth declick. You can use automation to increase or decrease the sensitivity. You can use automation to increase or decrease the gain of your final output so that, like, I don't know, let's say you have, let's say, for example, you have a scene where you want your VO to be louder or quieter to match the mood of the scene. You can use automation to temporarily bring up or down that VO. And yeah, like the possibilities are just limitless here, okay? So in Logic, if you hit the A key, it'll bring up your automation lanes. Now, I like to click this and switch to track automation. It's just better in my opinion. And I can click this down here, and I can go down and select any of the properties I want to automate. So let's bring in bypass, and I could just click anywhere here and it will create a node. And I'd like to start off with, let's start off with having the compressor bypass. So I just take this, I drag this up, and it starts off as bypassed, okay? The alternative, of course, is just to crank the threshold all the way to 0 and it won't do anything. The other automation types I like to put in here would be release. And the reason I do that is because if I want to like fade things down or up, well, actually, release is fading things back up. So I either want to do that slowly or quickly. And then depending on the type of reaction that I want, I would also automate the hold to bring the hold down a little bit so that it lets go a bit more quickly. So again, it depends on like the mix and stuff like that. So what we're doing here is we're going to add a threshold automation. And with this, so an alternative to adding this bypass would be to do something like this, where I just take this node and I drag this up all the way to 0, and it won't do anything. So, okay, so let's go ahead and start mixing. But before we do that, actually, let's create start a track automation, and let's do RX11 mouth declick and add sensitivity in case we need it. Okay, let's get started. Let's get started with our mixing here. So again, we got to remember the compressor is bypassed. And I feel like the compressor should be bypassed because this part right here is like pretty quiet. But if we need to like turn on the compressor to like duck this section, even just a little bit, then we absolutely can go back and do that.
The Australian Broadcasting Corporation and Screen Australia present, in white letters, the words "First Day" appear on the side of a school.
So I'm going to anticipate.
In the courtyard, a sprawling tree with drooping branches partially hides the school building. Pigeons wander near a row of bikes locked to a rack by a brick wall. A picnic table sits beneath the shade of another large tree on the lawn.
We're gonna play through this entire thing.
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses
so right
and
around
light blue
here,
shirts climb a step.
So right around here, I feel like we should engage the compressor. And so just to explain what I did, all I did was click on this little line right here, and it adds a point. And then I could take that point, and I could drag it down. I can even click and drag this point left or right. Possibilities are endless on this. So we have our compressor now engaged, not bypassed. And so what we can do here now is, even though we have this threshold marker set at the beginning, we can then take this and drag this up or down and duck this however much we want. The lower the threshold, so in the negatives, the lower this is, the more it will duck the audio based on what's happening down here. Again, you want to use your ears, play around with what sounds good. You don't want the ducking to sound obvious, because I know some people just like duck things like crazy, and it just takes away from your overall experience. So just don't excessively duck, unless if you absolutely have to. If there's like a scene where there's like gunshots, or like a huge like action scene where like there's like loud music, loud sound effects, like definitely like duck as much as you need to in order for the voice to come through clearly. But also don't take the viewer out of don't take the consumer out of like the experience, right? That makes sense? All right, let's continue.
Inside, students in pinstriped dresses and light blue shirts climb a staircase and file down a hallway. In a waiting room, a portrait hangs on one of the red-painted walls. Wearing a blazer, a blonde receptionist works at her computer. She looks up. In a waiting room,
in a waiting room, I feel like we can, and this is what I like to do here generally. I'll bring this up. Well, I'll even like bring up the threshold so that it's not even compressing based on what's going on down here, because this scene is like pretty quiet, I feel. So it allows us then to make our VO sound a bit more part of the mix instead of being on top of it.
In a waiting room, a portrait hangs on one of the red-painted walls. Wearing a blazer, a blonde receptionist works at her computer. She looks up, smiles, and stands behind the front desk as a blonde woman and young girl enter.
So you can probably tell like there's...
Hi. I'm Amanda Bradford, and this is Hannah.
I have the reference video like pulled up like as a like I could even like enlarge this. This is the reference video that I also mix against as well. So let's go ahead and skip ahead a little bit.
Yeah. Thank you.
A bearded man nearby glances over as Hannah and Amanda sit under the portrait. Hannah glances briefly in Amanda's direction.
Mr. Nguyen, Mrs. Bradford's here.
So you could hear like
Take that off last night.
it sounds pretty good so far.
Hannah picks at pink nail polish on her finger.
We'll stop at the shop.
The important thing is, I can't stress this enough, and this is the reason why I pointed you to dialogue-gated loudness and trying to match that, is because you want your AD to sit naturally with the level of the dialogue. I know some people say, oh, it should be a bit louder. I mean, yeah, sure, depending if you want the AD to be like front and center. But for my mixes, I like to make the VO sound just as loud as the dialogue so that you're not scrambling for your remote, turning down the volume. And you don't want your AD to be overly loud. So you really want to use your ears here. And even if that LUFS target that you went for was either too loud or too quiet, that's okay. You could just either reduce or increase the gain and automate even that section of your mix. So things are sounding pretty good here in terms of like where the dialogue is sitting.
I forgot.
Hannah picks at pink nail polish on her finger.
We'll stop at the shops before I drop you at school. You have to get changed anyway.
Can't I just...
Amanda, sorry to keep you waiting.
That's okay.
I'm John. And this must be Hannah.
John wears a brown suit. In the principal's office,
So, thanks for coming in. It's nice to meet in person. I won't keep you in suspense. Hannah, we'd like to offer you a place here at Hillview next year.
So let's skip ahead a little bit.
I'm not a boy.
Hannah appears distraught.
I know, and that's not
Okay, so for, I think I heard a mouth click in there somewhere. So what I like to do is I like to do this. This is really cool. So you can create 4 points, doesn't matter where. And you can click in the middle of this and hold and drag this up and down. So we want to crank this up until we can't hear the mouth click anymore, but we also don't want to go too far on this, because if we take the sensitivity too far, then it won't sound natural.
I'm not a boy.
Hannah appears distraught.
I know.
So yeah, the mouth click there is gone. Mouth click there is gone. Okay. And we can see we slope all the way back down to our original sensitivity, which was like 2.7. So that's another case where automation can come in handy.
Chance to settle in.
Later, a person stands over a blue school bag and clothes on a tiled floor. In the hallway, Amanda waits outside the bathroom, holding a pink water bottle, cotton pads, and scissors. Standing in front of a full-length mirror, Hannah buttons up a light blue collared shirt. She smooths her dirty blonde hair, wiping off lipstick with her hand. Her hot pink She smooths her dirty blonde hair, wiping off lipstick with her hand.
Okay, so there is a bit of a mouth click there as well. So again, automation, very handy for stuff like this. And let's see if we can get rid of it.
She smooths her dirty blonde hair, wiping off lipstick with her hand.
I just want to make sure I'm not going crazy.
She smooths her dirty blonde hair, wiping off lipstick with her hand.
There's like no way to I don't think there's any way to get rid of that. Is there?
She smooths her dirty blonde hair, wiping off lipstick with her hand.
Yeah, there's like no way to get rid of that. Unfortunately, hang on, I want to try something. This is going off the rails already. Okay, frequency skew. That's something we could try.
She smooths her dirty blonde hair, wiping off lipstick.
Okay, so this is for the, I think, higher frequencies, right? So
she smooths her dirty blonde hair, wiping off lipstick with her hand. She smooths her dirty blonde hair, wiping off lipstick with her hand.
Yeah, there's like no way. There is just no way to get rid of that, unfortunately. So let's just bypass that automation altogether. That's just, yeah, unfortunate. I mean, the only way to fix that is just to, and what I should have done at the time was just re-record that. Or like, so the only way to get rid of mouth clicks realistically is re-record and try not to like have that mouth click in there to begin with. That's the best way to get rid of mouth clicks. The other way would be like, say if there was like a mouth click between words, like, I don't know, if there was like one word and then you pause and then you say another word, what you can do in that case is you can take out that mouth click, manually cut that, like split and cut your clip so that mouth click is gone. So unfortunately, that's just, something that was a bit of an oversight on my part when I recorded this back then. But yeah, let's continue on. This is what happens behind the scenes. This is what happens behind the scenes. You're getting a first look at what happens like with me and mixing. And sometimes like I will record pickups if like I feel like I didn't like how things were recorded at first. So
she smooths her dirty blonde hair, wiping off lipstick with her hand. Her hot pink.
Okay, so the problem actually with like boosting the hell out of that was we lost the "d" in hand. It didn't come through as clearly. So
she smooths her dirty blonde hair, wiping off lipstick with her hand.
Okay, let's go back.
She smooths her dirty blonde hair, wiping off lipstick with her hand. She smooths her dirty blonde hair, wiping off lipstick with her hand. Her hot pink nails stand out.
Okay.
She rubs the area under her eyes and frowns.
So you can see that consonant came through just fine. The D in hand came through. And that's, again, another reason to use automation for stuff like that. Like if your consonants are feeling muddy, lower the sensitivity a little bit on mouth declick. That's the way I fix it. I mean, maybe there's a better way, but still.
She rubs the area under her eyes and frowns at her reflection.
Okay, so I feel like
Hannah slings her school bag over one shoulder.
Okay, I feel like we can duck that a tad bit.
She rubs the area under her eyes and frowns at her reflection. Hannah slings her school bag over one shoulder. She takes one last look at herself in the mirror, then slides open the bathroom door and leaves. She approaches Amanda, who hands her the bottle and cotton pads. Amanda ties back Hannah's hair.
How long do you think it'll be?
All right, let's skip ahead.
They leave. In a parked car, Hannah sits in the left passenger seat. She wipes off nail polish with a cotton pad.
Again, at this
her mother
point-
in the driver's seat to her right.
So at this point, I'm just gonna I'm not gonna do as much explaining here because I think you get it already. So if I have to stop and explain something, I will. But for the time being, at least, like you'll just see me doing like moves and anticipating certain things.
They leave. In a parked car, Hannah sits in the left passenger seat. She wipes off nail polish with a cotton pad. Her mother in the driver's seat to her right.
Can I come to work with you?
So just a little behind the scenes on that description. The reason why I was very specific with like the whole like in the driver's seat to her right or the left passenger seat was because this short film is Australian. And in places like Australia, the UK, stuff like that, cars tend to, and coming from like a North American perspective, like the way they have the driver's seat on the right side of the car is weird. So the consumer might think, well, the driver and passenger seat. I mean, so the driver's seat's on the left side of the car, passenger seat on the right. That's not the case at all. So again, I wanted to like paint a bigger picture for the consumer, so that there was like no like misunderstandings for that description. So
Anyway,
We've been through this, Hannah.
Amanda stares out the windshield.
then can I just stay home?
No, I don't want you home on your own.
Please.
Through this, Hannah.
Amanda stares out the windshield.
Then can I just stay home?
No, I don't want you home on your own.
Please.
All day, sweetheart.
With furrowed eyebrows, Hannah looks at Amanda, who gives Hannah a reassuring smile. Hesitantly, Hannah opens the car door. She steps out of the car and heads toward the school. At the front of the school, a group of girls sign T-shirts using marker. One of the girls has long auburn hair.
March all of the holidays.
They spot Hannah as she rounds the corner.
Thomas!
The girls confront Hannah.
Tom, don't ignore me, Tom. That's rude.
Do you want me to sign your shirt?
She glances down.
Let me go.
The auburn-haired girl holds a marker.
No one's stopping you.
Hannah holds back tears as she pushes past the girls. She glances down.
Let me go.
The auburn-haired girl holds a marker.
again, this is another example of re-recording, because there's that mouth click.
Let me go.
I don't think there's a way to get rid of that. I mean, there could be, but not without cutting into the th in the. So, again, re-recording is like your best bet. Like if like you know that mouth declick will not be able to get everything. It's a good plugin, but it won't get everything.
No one's stopping you.
Hannah holds back tears as she pushes past the girls. One of them sports a blue headband.
Gonna miss you, Tommy boy.
At home, Hannah joins a teen boy who eats breakfast at the kitchen island. Her dad irons and smiles as she enters.
You're up early?
If only
Okay,
it were that
so-
easy on a school day.
Ha ha.
I want to lower this just a little bit.
No one's stopping you.
Hannah holds back tears as she pushes past the girls. One of them sports a blue headband.
Gonna miss you, Tommy boy.
At home, Hannah joins a teen boy who eats breakfast at the kitchen island. Her dad irons and smiles as she enters.
You're up early?
If only it were that easy on
In a montage,
Okay, so this part we will need to do some ducking, a little bit of ducking here. And I can just eyeball where we need to end the ducking. So right around here, I'd say. And so what this is going to do is if I just click and hold anywhere on this, I could just drag this down a little bit, and it will slope down abruptly. So, and then it'll then apply a new threshold to the sidechain compressor, and then this ducking will be applied for all of this up until here, where the sidechain compressor goes back to practically no ducking. So this is a case of where we need to play with a threshold, and then we can get a more even balance with the VO and the OV.
In a montage, Jack and Hannah play a fighting video game on the TV. The two sit on... In a montage, Jack and Hannah play a fighting video game on the TV. The two sit on the couch in the living room. In a montage, Jack and Hannah play a fighting video game on the TV. The two sit on the couch in the living room. In the yard, they kick a soccer ball on the lawn. On Christmas, Hannah beams as she hugs a pink bicycle. She pulls a stuffed bear from the matching basket. Nearby, her parents watch with warm smiles. Present day, a clerk addresses
So it's going
Amanda
back up?
in a uniform shop.
So listen.
A clerk addresses warm smiles. Present day, a clerk...
So what we can do here actually is we could take this and we could just drag this back a little bit. So let's see how that sounds.
Warm smiles. Present day, a clerk addresses Amanda in a uniform shop.
Is she starting a new school?
Year 7.
Sometimes a
Day for all of us.
She smiles at Hannah, who emerges from a changing room in a pinstriped dress, with a white collar and a red ribbon tied at the front.
have a look.
Hannah's mother approaches her from behind at a full-length mirror and beams. Hannah smiles, her hair draping past her shoulders.
So for this, again, we're anticipating that I will need to duck right around. Let's just put down rough points and just drag this down.
Later, wearing a helmet and gray t-shirt, Hannah rides her bike down a suburban street. Her shirt has black and white outlined squares with number 9 at the top and New York City below. Hannah smiles as she rides.
All right, and then we're getting close to...
Later, in a softly lit bedroom, Hannah's school dress hangs on the back of the closed door.
So yeah, the scene is pretty quiet,
I'm
so
just getting ready for bed.
we
The
make
door
sure
opens. Amanda peers in.
we make sure we're not like ducking anywhere in
Hannah
this.
sits on the bed, wrapped in a blanket, wearing pajamas, and holds a stuffed animal. Amanda sits beside her.
Ready for tomorrow?
Hannah looks down at the stuffed animal, her face etched with worry, then up at Amanda's gentle smile.
What happens if they can tell? If they find out?
Amanda stares at her daughter, who slightly furrows her brow.
Maybe I should.
I loved re-recording the AD for this. It's such a better job.
A series of emotions flicker over Amanda's face.
If that's what you want to do.
So notice how like there's no ducking, almost no ducking happening during this.
Which uniform?
A series of emotions flicker over Amanda's face.
If that's what you want to do. Me, Dad and I will take your lead on this, remember?
Hannah lowers her gaze.
Okay.
Her eyes flick up to Amanda.
Okay, so I feel like right here we can
Wearing a black...
increase the sensitivity.
Her eyes flick up to Amanda.
It sort of helped.
Wearing a black tank top, Amanda embraces Hannah.
You know what I think?
Amanda leans to meet her at eye level. Wearing a black tank top, Amanda embraces Hannah.
You know what I think?
So yeah, that helped a little bit.
Amanda leans to meet her at eye level.
The first day is always the hardest.
She strokes the little girl's face. The next morning, Hannah's dad approaches Amanda in the kitchen.
Hey.
Jack sits at the island.
Mum, can I have $20?
What for?
Lunch.
It's first day back at school. Can you just take something from home?
Hannah ambles in, wearing her school dress, and lifts her gaze.
Do you like it, Dad?
You just take something from home?
Hannah ambles in, wearing her school dress, and lifts her gaze.
See, we got rid of that click.
Do you like it, Dad?
Her father, Steve, approaches and pulls Hannah into a hug.
Okay, let's try.
Do you like it, Dad?
Her father, Steve, approaches and pulls Hannah into a hug.
See, that helped a little bit.
Jack glances over at them, then back to his breakfast. In the car,
Do you want me to come with you?
they sit parked outside Hannah's new school.
Okay. Well, you can call me anytime, remember? And remember what?
Later, Hannah stands near the gates and looks around as students pass by. A long braid drapes over her shoulder.
Okay, so I feel like for this one, we want to apply just a little bit of ducking here. Not too much.
Later, Hannah stands near the gates and looks around as students pass by. A long braid drapes over her shoulder.
Okay, so this one, I'm anticipating this because this is like a bunch of like low-end energy. So, let's see how that sounds.
She lowers her eyes to black shoes and white socks on her feet. A dark-haired girl, Olivia, runs up.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Me? Do you know where the Year 7s are supposed to go? No, it's my first day. Me too. You think they tell you where you have to go? They say be there at 8:30, like you know where there is.
Olivia also has braided hair. The two girls look around.
That looks like a teacher. She should know, right? I mean, if she
Let's
doesn't know.
duck
how
this
are
a
we
little
supposed
bit.
They run off.
There at 8:30, like you know where there is.
Olivia also has braided hair. The two girls look around.
That looks like a teacher.
Yeah, because we wanted to make the VO cut through the school bell. Because the school bell actually, just a bit of like fun with the EQ actually. How do I do this? Let's add Pro Q4. Okay, so let's play this part here.
No, how are we supposed to?
They run off. Later, Hannah arrives to find Olivia sitting with two other girls on a bench.
Okay,
One of them.
Where the hell is this? Okay.
8:30, like you know where there is.
Olivia also has braided hair.
Yeah, so you can see like right around
8:30,
here.
Like you know where there is.
Olivia also has braided hair.
So yeah, right around
The
like
two
this
girls look
this whole
around.
like section. Like even if we just for fun, let's boost the hell out of this section and solo it.
Olivia also has braided hair. The two.
So if we go lower,
Olivia also has braided hair.
see the school bell. You don't pick that up in this frequency space, but up here, this is where the school bell is, and so because of that, because of where the school bell is in the context of the original mix, our voice just so happens to be in that intelligibility range. So if we duck the OV during that school bell, then that will also turn down like the school bell along with everything else, allowing our voice to come through.
8:30, like you know where there is.
Olivia also has braided hair.
I feel like we can. Let's go a bit more.
8:30, like you know where there is.
Olivia also has braided hair. The two girls look around.
That looks like a teacher.
That's better.
She should know, right? I mean, if she doesn't know, how are we supposed to?
They run off. Later, Hannah arrives to find Olivia sitting with two other girls on a bench. One of them has an orange bow in her blonde hair. The other has her dark hair tied back. Olivia waves her over.
Okay.
Bow in her blonde hair has an orange bow in her blonde. One of them has an orange bow in her blonde hair. The other has her dark hair tied back. Olivia waves her over. One of them has an orange bow in her blonde hair. The other has her dark hair tied back. Olivia waves her over.
Again, we did the best we can under the circumstances, but
One of them has an orange bow in her blonde. One of them has an orange bow in her blonde hair. The other has her dark hair tied back. Olivia waves her over.
Hannah! Hannah!
She joins them.
I was looking for you. Sucks we're not in the same class, but that doesn't mean we can't hang out, right? This is Nat, short for
The blonde.
Natalie, and this is Jasmine, but everyone calls her
so, and this is where compression comes in handy because when I said the blonde, let's solo that actually.
The blonde.
Notice how the blonde gets, hang on, this is really going to mess things up a little bit, but let's turn off the compressor. And you can see what I'm talking about here. So let's bypass the compressor.
The blonde.
And then with the compressor,
The blonde.
so you might not have heard the difference, but it's there. Because,
The blonde.
see, that transient got turned down by a fair bit,
The blonde.
by like 7.8 dB. So, but the compressor looked ahead and it was like, oh my God, I have to turn this down. So it did it in a transparent way, which is awesome. So, okay, let's, yeah.
This is Nat, short
The
for
blonde.
Natalie, and this is Jasmine.
I feel like, okay, the blonde, I feel like the,
This is Nat, short
The
for
blonde.
Natalie, and this is Nat, short
The
for
blonde.
Natalie, and this is Jasmine, but
okay,
everyone calls her
like, yeah,
Jasmine.
we had to duck a
Here's
little bit
Hannah,
more
the
there,
girl I
but
was
whatever.
talking to you about. Hi, Hannah.
Later, Hannah sits in the classroom.
Okay, with these musical montages, again, we know we have to like duck a fair bit. So let's just crank this up and
This is Nat, short for
The blonde.
Natalie, and this is Jasmine, but everyone calls her Jasmine. This is Hannah, the girl I was talking to you about. Hi, Hannah.
Later, Hannah sits in the classroom. She and other students shoot their hands into the air. At home, Amanda and Steve converse in the kitchen, while Hannah sits at the table doing schoolwork. She receives texts reading, "Come over this weekend? Homework-free zone." She smiles at her phone. Later, Jasmine joins Olivia and Hannah on the bench.
And Viva and...
I feel like we could just drag this out maybe just a bit more.
Smiles at her phone. Later, Jasmine joins Olivia and Hannah on the bench.
And it fades back up in time for the next scene.
Where do you find all these things? It's my special talent.
Where have you been? Handing out my party. Me to invite him to my party.
Hannah furrows her brow.
I gotta go to the bathroom. Hey, how come you use the sick bay toilets?
Yeah, I've seen you use it too.
Hannah darts her eyes as everyone looks to her.
We're almost done.
Have you seen in there? It's huge. And plus, you get the whole thing to see how it goes.
She smiles nervously with the others.
To see how it goes.
Let's have a listen to that in solo.
She smiles nervously with the others.
Okay, there's a mouth click in there. I need to get rid of it.
She smiles nervously with the others. She smiles nervously with the others.
That's good enough.
To see how it goes.
She smiles nervously with the others. Students move through a busy hallway. Olivia, Jasmine, and Natalie sit at an outdoor picnic table. In the bathroom, Hannah looks into the mirror and smiles. She flips both braids to the front, then heads for the door.
Yeah, since with the sounds and the Foley in the hallway, we have to sidechain compress it a bit more.
Students move through a busy hallway. Olivia, Jasmine, and Natalie sit at an outdoor picnic table. In the bathroom, Hannah looks into the mirror and smiles. She flips both braids to the front, then heads for the door. As she reaches to open it, she freezes.
This is I can't believe I didn't catch this. This is a case where a pickup would be useful.
Door.
Listen to the last sentence. This part could have been done better.
Door. As she reaches to open it, she...
Notice how the to open it was like kind of mashed together. But again, like, the thing to understand is that I was trying to stay within like the time constraints because I wanted to and this is the thing with AD writing and narrating and mixing and stuff. It's an art, because when I was narrating this part,
door. As she reaches to open it, she freezes.
So if you heard the door opening, I wanted to let that sound through as much as I could, so I had to go a bit faster with my delivery. If I didn't want that to come through, I would have went a bit slower, if that makes sense. All right. All right, let's continue with our...
I fell off my skateboard.
Hannah lowers her eyes as she listens.
It may well suck, but you'll still need to come back up.
Skateboard.
Hannah lowers her eyes as she listens.
It may well suck, but you'll still need to come back after recess. I've made an appointment for you then. Okay?
Hannah tentatively opens the door and steps out. She turns to find the auburn-haired girl, Isabella, leaving another room. She wears a striped skirt and gray sweater. She and Hannah lock eyes.
Thomas?
She turns to find the auburn-haired girl, Isabella, leaving another room. She wears a striped skirt and gray sweater. She and Hannah lock eyes.
Thomas?
Hannah stares with parted lips and runs off. Later, her foot jiggles as she sits at a classroom desk.
And yeah, notice we don't have to do much ducking in these scenes.
She frowns as she idly rests her arm on a textbook.
Like, just the atmosphere of this movie, like, you want to let it through. Like, when you're mixing VO for something like this, you want to let the atmosphere through. So not ducking as much is fine. Like, especially, like, even like in the opening credits, like, I wanted to let that, like, ambience through. Because otherwise, like, if you apply too much ducking, it will ruin the experience. Like, it'll take you out of, like, whatever it is you're watching, because then you're focusing, you're then turning the focus entirely onto the AD, and that's not what we want. We want the AD to be mixed in a way where it sounds like it's part of, like, the original production. So, and we're not talking about, like, just using exact EQ curves for, like, the dialogue. I mean, you want to make it sound natural, as if it was, like, part of, like, the original, like, production. And not ducking here would be the best, like, course of action to do that. Along with, if you're working with content that has, like, a very tight dynamic range, you know, like sitcoms or whatever, or game shows or news broadcasts, stuff like that, then yeah, you will want to go a bit more aggressive on your compressor.
She frowns as she idly rests her arm on a textbook. Her hair tied back with a dark green bow, Hannah stares blankly ahead, lost in thought.
I realized there's a lot of interpretive language that was being used in here, and that's my bad.
Later, students file through a stairwell. Natalie and Jasmine join Hannah and Olivia on a bench.
Mr. Did you hear me?
Hannah slowly nods. At her locker, she makes a call.
Okay, so we'll just...
Hi, you've reached Amanda Bradford. I can't come to...
Hannah slowly nods. At her locker, she makes a call.
Maybe...
Hi.
Hannah slowly nods. At her locker, she makes a call.
That's as good as we're gonna get it.
Hi, you've reached Amanda Bradford. I can't come to...
She lowers the phone to her side and leans against her locker. Outside, the three girls look at a distressed Hannah sitting on a bench leaning against the brick wall.
Hannah? Hannah, are you okay?
She blinks, then gets up.
I feel sick.
Do you want me to come with you?
No, thanks.
Olivia stares after her wide-eyed. Then Hannah paces in the bathroom.
What happens if they find out?
Olivia stares after her wide-eyed. Then Hannah paces in the bathroom.
What happens if they find out?
She turns to her reflection in the mirror above the sink.
Do you like it, Dad?
She squares her shoulders.
I love you.
She smiles, then nods to herself. Hannah shuts her eyes, then lets out a breath. Outside, Isabella spots her from the bench. She stands and approaches.
Hi there, Tommy boy. Don't call me that.
Tell everyone who you really are.
Hannah looks down and appears worried.
Then do it.
I mean it.
I know.
Hey, jumper girl. Where's your beanie and gloves?
Shut up. Can't wait to tell everyone who you really are.
Hannah looks down and appears worried.
Then do it.
I mean, even if we're letting mouth clicks through there in that line, I wanted the D to be like more pronounced.
No.
Hey, jumper girl. Where's your beanie and gloves?
Shut up.
Isabella quickly pulls a sleeve down from her sweater to cover bruises on her right arm. Hannah eyes them, then her eyes flick back up to Isabella.
Are you okay?
What's it? I don't think so.
Isabella turns away. Hannah blinks.
Okay.
Isabella lowers her eyes.
But if you change your mind,
Hannah holds out a hand.
my name's Hannah.
Hannah smiles. Cut to black. Audio description produced by the ADCC. Written and voiced by Kyle Warwick.
So yeah, for end credits, I like to do two things actually. So I want to set my threshold so it ducks the end credits, and then I want my release. This is the first time we're automating the release. So right around here, I'm just going to bring that up to like 2 seconds. Or 2,000 milliseconds. Or 2,000...
Hannah smiles. Cut to black.
2.5 milliseconds.
Audio description produced by the ADCC. Written and voiced by Kyle Warwick-Mathieu. Credits.
Sorry, I meant like 2,500 milliseconds. That's like 2.5 seconds, pretty much.
Hannah smiles. Cut to black. Audio description produced by the ADCC. Written and voiced by Kyle Warwick-Mathieu. Credits. Written and directed by Julie Kelsiff. Produced by Christy Stark. Introducing Evie McDonald as Hannah. Credits roll.
Alright.
Kyle Warwick-Mathieu. Credits. Written and directed by Julie Kelsiff. Produced by Christy Stark. Introducing Evie McDonald as Hannah. Credits roll. Julie Kelsiff. Produced by Christy Stark. Introducing Evie McDonald as Hannah. Credits roll.
And then let's go over to here.
Copyright Epic Films 2017. Logos Epic Films, ABC, Australian Government, Screen Australia.
Alright, so we need to maybe lower the threshold a little bit on this. Or raise it actually. Raise the threshold.
Copyright Epic Films.
And then let's maybe like do...
Copyright Epic Films 2017. Logos Epic Films, ABC, Australian Government, Screen Australia.
And there we go. That is a mix done. Okay, so obviously before we export, we have to turn off or remove Abbey Road Studio 3 from our thing. So now, I'm only going to play like maybe a little bit. Let's actually play the last like, I don't know, the last like 2 scenes or whatever.
First and see how it goes.
She smiles nervously with the others. And runs off. Yeah, let's actually like play from here.
How it goes.
She smiles nervously with the others. Students move through a busy hallway. Olivia, Jasmine, and Natalie sit at an outdoor picnic table. In the bathroom, Hannah looks into the mirror and smiles. She flips both braids to the front, then heads for the door. As she reaches to open it, she freezes.
So yeah, you can hear how it sounds on your playback system. Almost. It should be pretty accurate.
Just for a quick chat.
I told her. I fell off my skateboard.
Hannah lowers her eyes as she listens.
It may well suck, but you'll still need to come back after recess. I've made an appointment for you then. Okay?
Hannah tentatively opens the door and steps out. She turns to find the auburn-haired girl, Isabella, leaving another room. She wears a striped skirt and gray sweater. She and Hannah lock eyes.
Thomas?
Hannah stares with parted lips and runs off. Later, her foot jiggles as she sits at a classroom desk. She frowns as she idly rests her arm on a textbook.
So yeah, it does sound like pretty good.
Her hair tied back with a dark green bow, Hannah stares blankly ahead, lost in thought. Later, students file through a stairwell. Natalie and Jasmine join Hannah and Olivia on a bench.
Mr. Baxter was doing the science experiment and smoke started coming out of the test tubes and he freaked out. How funny was Mr. Baxter?
Oh my god, he had no clue.
Hannah, did you hear me?
Hannah slowly nods. At her locker, she makes a call.
Hi, you've reached Amanda Bradford. I can't come to the...
She lowers the phone to her side and leans against her locker. Outside, the three girls look at a distressed Hannah sitting on a bench leaning against the brick wall.
Hannah? Hannah, are you okay?
She blinks, then gets up.
I feel sick.
Do you want me to come with you?
No thanks.
Olivia stares after her wide-eyed. Then Hannah paces in the bathroom.
What happens if they find out?
She turns to her reflection in the mirror above the sink.
Do you like it, Dad?
She squares her shoulders.
I love you.
She smiles, then nods to herself. Hannah shuts her eyes, then lets out a breath. Outside, Isabella spots her from the bench. She stands and approaches.
Hi there, Tommy boy. Don't call me that. Why not? Because you're wearing a dress? What's with that? Why are you here?
I missed you, Tommy boy.
I said don't call me that.
I can't wait to tell everyone who you really are.
Hannah looks down and appears worried.
Then do it. I mean it. I know. Hey, jumper girl. Where's your beanie and gloves? Shut up.
Isabella quickly pulls a sleeve down from her sweater to cover bruises on her right arm. Hannah eyes them, then her eyes flick back up to Isabella.
Are you okay?
What's it to you?
I don't know. I don't need you feeling sorry for me. Do you want to talk about it? With you?
I guess.
I don't think so.
Isabella turns away. Hannah blinks.
Okay.
Isabella lowers her eyes.
But if you change your mind,
Hannah holds out a hand.
my name's Hannah.
Hannah smiles. Cut to black. Audio description produced by the ADCC.
All right, so yeah, we have you have a pretty good idea of like what's going on, and
Copyright Epic Films 2017. Logos Epic Films, ABC, Australian Government, Screen Australia.
and it's because of all of these plugins that allows me to like make very professional sounding mixes. So let's recap really quick. So first of all, we talked about gain staging, setting your recording levels properly. I don't want to go back into that because I think you know how important that is. But yeah, no, like -12, -10 average. Don't peak higher than -6. And then you use your plugins to process your audio. So if you have a very clicky mouth when you record, use like a mouth declicker like RX11 mouth declick. For EQ, you can use pretty much any EQ that you want. I mean, heck, you can even use like Pro Q4 from like FabFilter to EQ your voice, which I mean is actually like pretty handy because let me quickly demonstrate like what the heck I'm talking about here. Even though this is probably going to be a very rough like EQ. So let's add a high pass filter, and let's go to, because I know my voice pretty well, I want to say like maybe like 95. 24 dB per octave. Okay. So one of the cool things with, and this is just a bonus thing here, one of the cool things with FabFilter Pro Q4 is, you know how I kept saying, oh, we got to like make like boosts or cuts like in certain areas, especially like in like the like 2 to 500 range where like the mud lives? Well, guess what? Pro Q4 actually has what's called spectral dynamic bands that you can have. So we'll save the whole like what is a dynamic EQ or dynamic band for another day. But basically, the best way to think about it is each band acts like its own compressor for that section of audio. So for instance, let's narrow the Q a little bit. So we're only like paying attention to this area right here. And I'm going to solo until I find like some mud.
Is partially hide.
I'm going to do this in solo.
In the courtyard,
so yeah, there's like a lot of
on the lawn.
So yeah, this entire range right here is like pretty boxy. So normally what would happen is like I was like, okay, let's just cut this.
In the courtyard, a sprawling tree with drooping branches partially hides the school building. Pigeons wander near a row of bikes locked to a rack by a brick wall.
So yeah, normally you would just like cut and call it a day, right? But with spectral dynamic bands, you don't have to worry about that. All you do is you take this, you drag it down as far as you want, and check this out.
In the courtyard, a sprawling tree with drooping branches partially hides the school building. Pigeons wander near a row of bikes locked to a rack by a brick wall.
So what it's doing is it's like only reducing the parts that are overly abundant, and it leaves like the rest of it alone. So, you know, let's see if we can go a bit lower on this.
In the courtyard, a sprawling tree with drooping branches partially hides the school building.
And let's go ahead and make this a, oh, sorry, I'm kind of like getting sidetracked here, but I want to prove a point that, okay, so this is a low shelf, right? Yeah. Okay. 0. All right, let's make this spectral dynamic. And we can just take this, drag this down, and check this out. Let's actually put it like maybe like let's do 153. This is how it sounds in solo. See, it's very muddy down there. So if we, now let's hit play.
In the courtyard, a sprawling tree with drooping branches partially hides the school building. In the courtyard, a sprawling tree with drooping branches partially hides the school building.
So yeah, that's like another really cool thing. Like seriously, you could use any EQ on your voice. It doesn't really matter. You just have to know how to EQ properly. And the thing is, don't over-EQ. So if you find yourself making like I don't know, like maybe like 15 small cuts, yeah, there's a problem. Don't go doing that. I did that when I first started out, and I was like, why the fuck is my audio so bad? And it's because the mistake people make would be to like boost the hell out of a specific frequency space and then sweep around until you find quote unquote bad frequencies. Everything's going to sound terrible when it's boosted. So again, use your ears, try to get a sense of like, okay, where is the problem? And then either cut or boost, depending on what you want to do. But yeah, I used Learn EQ for this, so.
In the courtyard, a sprawling tree with...
I guess it didn't help the fact that I also had compression turned on as well when I was doing all that. But yeah, no, you get the point. Okay, so we talked about EQ, compression, de-essing. We talked about how to find the loudness target that you would want to use for your like final VO level. We talked about automation, sidechain compression, and stuff like that. The one thing that's left to do is to talk about mastering. And for something like this, to master it, you could do this one of two ways. What I like to do is I like to bounce my mix out to a new file, and then I like to come back into Logic under a new temporary session, drag the bounced mix in, and then do my mastering that way. Mastering is something that engineers will do to have the full mix meet a specific loudness target, or in some cases set a true peak limit. So for example, let me just bounce this mix really quick. Okay, so now that we've bounced our mix, what's next? All right, let's save our session file, even though it's probably not going to be like actually saved by the time we're done with this, because I'm gonna delete my session file after. Because I mean, this is like not going to be going anywhere. This is just for demo purposes. So let's take our bounced mix and drag this into Ulean and see where we are. You can see we are like right at 0 dB true peak, and that is bad for a number of reasons. Because I mean, obviously we were working with compressed content, but yeah. But let's say you need to deliver this to I don't know, Netflix, for example. Netflix has very strict guidelines, right? Actually, let's compare. So this is how. These are the readings from our mix that we just did. And then let's take a look and let's analyze this file right here. So our integrated loudness is 28.3, and then 29.9 is our loudness. So the dialogue is a tad bit louder, I would say, but that's only because, yeah. Yeah. So expect things to get a little bit louder because of that, or quieter, depending. So, and then we have a long-term LRA of 11.6, dialogue gated 7.8. And let's compare. So you can see, like, with the original mix, the loudness range for the dialogue was a lot wider, and then so was the overall loudness range. It was more mastered for, like, you know, like cinematic, like wide, right? You have like a huge difference between the loudest and the quietest parts. Now, our last thing we have to do is, let's say we want to deliver this to Netflix, for example. Well, what do? Well, we can either do one of two ways, and I like doing it this way. We can open our mix into a new mixing session, into a new session. And so here we are, and we can hit play.
The Australian Broadcasting Corporation and Screen Australia.
And check that out. It's actually there. So, yeah, so what I like to do now is I like to go and add an instance of WLM+. We need to use the stereo version because that is our file output. And also the type of track we're working on. So we need to go to Preset, Netflix, and we can just leave this as it is. Netflix has a tolerance of plus or minus 2 loudness units, so it could either be minus 27, almost like as loud as minus 25, or as quiet as minus 29. So, yeah, and negative 2 dB true peak max is like where we should be as well. And we have to turn our limiter on because we don't want it exceeding negative 2 dB true peak. So, okay. So let's go ahead and use the same trick that we did. Let's bounce. I know what you're thinking. We're not ready to bounce yet, but hear me out. Let's save this as, I don't know, let's do like Netflix, for example, _Netflix, and boom. And you can see what it's doing there is it's rendering the file, but it's like playing back at like insanely fast speed. And I found that this method is like very consistent and we'll take a look at things in Ulean later. And we're done. Well, kind of. So yeah, our dialogue gated LRA in at least for WLM plus is measured at negative 30.1. So we have to increase our file by 3.1 dB. So let's do that, reset, and bounce again. Let's take a look and see how our Netflix master did. And here it is. Negative 26.8, negative 25.2, not bad. 11.6 LU for the overall loudness range. Loudness range dialogue gated is like 7.8, that's fine. And then negative 2 dB true peak max. So there you go. That just about wraps up how to mix and master AD. I know that we've been recording for how long now? Oh, roughly just over 2 hours. Man, I'm going to have a lot of fun editing this video. I'm going to have so much fun editing this video because there is no way that, like, at most, I think it'll be roughly 2 hours. This, if you want to call it a course. I literally just took you through my process when it comes to how I mix and process AD. And look, you might not be able to get the same level of quality I do, at least not without spending money on plugins. Although you could very well, I mean, if you do it correctly. It all comes down, a good mix comes down to making sure that it's recorded well. So, you know, like with the levels and even your performance, right? We came across a few cases where like even mouth declick couldn't save us. And so I was like, yeah, that could have been recorded just a little better. And so, yeah, if you have good levels, if you record well, and you process well using the tools that you have, then you will be able to create a very professional sounding mix. And on top of that, like when I say like make sure your file is recorded well, I'm also referring to your room and just everything that goes into recording your AD. Mixing is kind of like, think of recording as, you know, drawing. Let's pretend like you'd say you draw a flower with like a pencil, for example. You have a pencil drawing of a flower. That would be your raw recording, right? You know, it's all like black and white. It's like boring. There are certain like details of the flower that, you know, you want to like enhance, or there are some details about the flower that you don't like. And then you can then use like, I don't know, like a paintbrush or a marker to color in the flower to make it really pop out and look great. And that's exactly like what mixing AD is all about. Mixing AD is an art form. And even after you watch this video, I guarantee you, you're still going to struggle. It took me 2 years to figure out how to use a compressor, how to use an EQ, and hell, I'm still learning. I'm still learning how to EQ and compress and just have an overall good sound to my mixes. And you're only going to get better and better the more that you practice. So anyway, thanks for taking 2 hours out of your day to watch this entire mix session go down. I tried my best not to do as many edits to this. The only edits you may see from me would be like, you know, if I had to like I don't know, pause or you know, if I had to edit things out for whatever reason. But other than that, this was like a pretty raw video to watch, where you got to see the whole process and all of my explanations. So I hope this helps, and I will see you around.